welcome to today's video. In today's video, we'll continue our Alternate Future of North America series. And well, quickly, Canada and Mexico forms a secret alliance. They're both mad at the United States for taking their land, Mexico for taking their northern lands, and Mexico wants more land back. Canada wants its lands back and then some. And not long after this, Canada attacks the United States. Yay! Or no. Or yay. Or no. Or yay. Depends. But yes. The revanchist America is nobody's best friend. The basically fascist dictatorship, but it's not one in this series. And well, the Liberation War has begun. Yes, the Liberation War. Or the War of Revanchism, whatever you want to call it. And they attack in their first front, which is in the southern Ontario. So let's go to this front. And you might be thinking, oh, that's not too much land. But they start retaking their lands. Also, why is Long Island and that random island pretending to be neutral? Like, yeah, you're not neutral. I hate to break it to you. And also, as part that was annexed, yes, you might get returned. And well, they quickly push on the Lake Ontario. And they use this to move into the northern United States. To take some lands over. And they move into this area. Virtually kicking them out of Ontario at this point. And now for the Vancouver front. Well, that quickly leads to the pushback all the way across the border. And the taking of Seattle and Vancouver taken back. And these lands fall. And well, the western parts decide to start an advance south. By that I mean the Western Union. And while another nation joins at this point, right when they were getting ready for a counteroffensive. Yes, timing well. And nobody's very impressed with it. In two groups, one in the southeast, in the south, and another one in the west coast, decides to start gaining traction. One is the Communist Union, yes, the Communist Union and the Fascist Union. Both groups want revenge and want to change what's going on and get revenge on all their neighbors. And well, Mexico takes a bunch of land over. And at this point, we see some communist revolutions. And they mostly happen along the west coast areas. And a few on the California coast. Them quickly gaining lands across the coast. Which is quickly strengthening them because it's one of the most best areas. Wealthiest areas too. And well, they quickly start pushing into Baja California. Basically, they mostly gain strength around that area. And now to see where the fascist forces rise up. Well, as suspected, in the south. And they're very pro the neo-Confederate states. Which have fallen, but yeah. With them rising up across the area. And well, their strength is really strong. With them starting to move north and they start connecting these forces, New Orleans falls to them, which is a major victory for them. And well, they start losing much of the territory in this region, with them basically having to withdraw from this region. And then an encirclement pops up and the fascist forces take it over. And then Florida decides to join them, yes. And then they push over a bit to take more land as they push north towards Virginia. As they overtake the Carolinas, and then in like the center, southeast, yes, interior, east, the central east, yes, up towards the Midwest now, but their forces start slowing down their advances. But as these two groups started taking control over lands, the forces down from Mexico moved up north, and their front connects with this front. Right now, the two rebel groups aren't actively gone against the two invaders yet. As they start moving even deeper into southern Ontario, and they manage to finally take Toronto back. Well, they push through and they start entering into two places, Pennsylvania, New York, and, well, Michigan. And they take over all of this part. But with some pro-Canada rebels up here in the New England region. With this area quickly falling to their forces. And to the south, they start moving down the coast. And they end up linking with more forces, more of the rebel groups, and they start moving into Michigan. With them pushing into Minnesota now. Not Minnesota, Wisconsin and Minnesota. And they start moving in and they take Chicago and they take the rest of the Great Lake coast over. And at this point, they start moving towards Washington, D.C., which they manage to take over. With a proposal to split the U.S. into multiple pieces being thought of by Mexican and Canadian governments in this. And yes, more lands are taken, especially on the west coast. They start moving more and taking over more lands, and moving south to take more lands, with fascist forces ending up getting huge support, with a lot more groups rising up with them. And another group of fascist forces rising up and taking over a big chunk of the rural areas of the states as they start moving north. As they've taken over a lot of the state. And with communist forces taking a huge popularity in these areas, and they quickly take over these. With communist forces becoming attacked by the invading forces. With fascist forces and communist forces trying to hold the front as they're still fighting against the United States. Well, the rest of the East Coast falls to the Canadian forces. That's not under fascist occupation. Yeah. With the last of the land that these forces managed to take, stretching all the way across here, and then these lands fall, with the fascist forces being attacked into Texas. And yes, Baja California starts falling, with Mexico wanting to take back California in a lot of areas, with the fascists managing to capture and take over what's left, but unfortunately they weren't able to hold it fast enough because both forces didn't want the end of the United States. And well, let's see the peace treaty. Include New York Republic. Yes, New York stayed in the Republic. And well, they got the western states. Yes, it doesn't even have a coastline. Nor does the... Yeah, I don't know what you would call that. I just realized Mexico never annexed their borders. They annexed back what they had, parts of Texas. All of California, yes. They also annexed back Yucatan. the Yucatan Peninsula. And well, that's pretty much all for today's video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Wild Mapper out, and until you subscribe. Bye, guys!